Друзья, я передаю слово ведущим воркшопа. Инна и Сахер представляют компанию Hackmasters, и в течение часа они проведут для вас мастер-класс по своей креативной методологии. Давайте их поприветствуем аплодисментами. Все.
Здравствуйте. Welcome, everyone. My name is Inna. This is Saher. We are the founders of a company called Hackmasters. Before we actually kick off, could I ask everyone to just come forward and sit at the front of the room? I think we need to get closer to each other. We need to make this cozier. So everyone at the back, please move forward. Let's just get all together at the front. It will be easier to hear us as well. All right, so we are here today to expose you to what we call hacking methodology. Now, it's not really what you think. We're not going to ask you to open up your laptops, start typing the code, and break into some sort of system. Hacking methodology is actually an approach to a creative thinking. It's a hacking mentality that we're going to try and teach you today. So in order to do that, I feel like we need to talk a little bit about our company up front to tell you how we do things and how we think about the future in order to expose you to it. Later on, we're going to have a bit of a creative session. We're going to make it interactive. Everyone's going to be working in teams, and you're going to have to come up with ideas yourself. So to begin with, Hackmasters was founded about 3 years ago. It's a technology and innovation company. We're based in London, and we have a very small core team of about 7 individuals. But more importantly, we set up the company to be a network. It's a network of 3,000 people spread over the globe, worldwide. So in this network, we have a range of expertise, from CEOs at Spaceport Sweden to creatives to strategists to any kind of developers. And the way that we work with them is that every time when we work on a project, we cast a specific team for it. So we're not involving them on a constant basis, but we're making sure that it is the right people working on the right project on a day-to-day basis. Now, the projects that we work on tend to be quite futuristic. We are working with transformational innovation, something that completely disrupts the industry fundamentally. And the way we do it is actually at speed. We take them from a post-it idea to a pilot in 6 weeks' time. So in terms of our principles, so as you can see, we have a range of expertise in the network. And in terms of our principles, why we work or how we work is that we prioritize diversity. We're saying that diversity trumps ability. Now, we're not saying that it's diversity in terms of skill. We want to make sure that we bring experts into the room who have a range of backgrounds altogether. So we're not just working with one nation. We're actually bringing in people from all over the world who bring different culture, they bring different mentality, they bring a different approach in the way that they think of ideas. And once we put these guys together in one team, lots of interesting things can happen. Our second principle I'll keep on talking, and maybe the slides will appear, maybe they will not. But our second principle is speed is good. Now, when you're working with an intense project where you have to create something from your mind into something tangible that's usable in the real world, you would think that you have to think it through extensively. You would want to make sure that everything is right. You would want to think of all of the challenges up front and make it unbreakable. The thing is, that type of thinking slows everything down. That's why lots of different projects out there in the world, they take 6 months to develop. And the thing is, by the time you do it, the world has moved on. The world is changing faster than people are thinking of new things, which is why we make sure that we actually can crack new ideas and crack new projects much, much faster. And this speed gives us absolute focus. It means that every time we work on the ideas, we make sure that you are only working on that particular idea. And it allows you to fail fast, which means that you're not investing that much time and you're not investing that much money up front to be able to get to the point that you want to. And last bit of our thinking is that we think that people cannot think their way into new acting. They need to act their way into new thinking. That means that fundamentally, in order to change your beliefs, to change your behavior, to change your approach in terms of creative ideas, you need to get exposed to the methodology. You need to kind of go through it and experience it in order to be able to apply it later on. Now, let me show you how exactly our hacks look like and what kind of experience does that give you.
How do we want to live in the future? Sorry.
Give us a second.
Try now. How do we want to live in the future?
We all need to be working towards one goal.
To make Dubai the happiest city on earth. We're here to create and co-create. It's full of anticipation. It's full of fear. It's full of uncertainty and it's full of doubt. We don't know what the end will be. But that's why we hack. We had lots of ideas. How can we separate those ideas from each other and pick the good ones and pick the implementable ones? We are preparing to build. We brought some electronics with us. We're missing a few bits. We'll try and do the best we can with what we have. This is the time when we have to rely on each other to get through the hard bits and actually make it. This is how masters work.
Oh yeah.
Introducing Dubai. This is a virtual mall.
This is amazing.
I love it. You see, this is the idea of a home.
It was amazing.
So this is how the experience of working with us looks like. What you saw there was a week's worth of an engagement where we got 4 teams, about 50 people in one room, all types of range of expertise, basically going from nothing to 4 different prototypes in 5 days.
Good. Can you hear me now? Yes? Great. So as you saw in the video, I microchipped my client so I can follow her wherever she goes. I don't know whether you noticed that or not. All right. So why did we set up the company? I was not interested in setting up another agency. I was not interested in setting up another design studio. God knows that London is full of them and they're all brilliant. And I'm sure you have lots of them in here as well and they're all brilliant. What we're really interested is answering one critical question. How do we want to live in the future? And I think the key thing about that is lots of people are working on things, building things, creating government policy, creating big corporate policies, creating new brands, doing a whole bunch of things. But you get the feeling that there isn't a sense of direction. And of course, everything is possible. This is the most complicated chart we'll show. There is the present, and there's a range of probable futures, things that could happen. The question is, goes off again. Can you put it in and out? Try again. Is it there? So when you think about innovation or places where famous for innovation, such as Silicon Valley, 95% in there is around what we would call innovation to serve the needs of the 1%. We'll get you food quicker. Here's a food delivery service. That kind of thing. But the way that we think about it is, and this is not working very well. I might have to go analog. So I'm going to have to skip some of the slides because they're not all very, we're pressured for time. But one of the big things that we think about is that we do a lot of scenario planning. We do a lot of government strategy. We work with 3 different governments across the world. We work with super big brands, super big consultancies on global projects. And when you're working at that level, quite a lot of the challenges are very macro, but have huge impact on people. Healthcare, food, education, work, communication, culture, all of these things we've covered and we worked on, even security. And the big themes are, you got lots of fragmentation of power and culture and what's going on around that. There is lots of centralization. There is lots of automation and codification. So if you think about food, even food is becoming digitized. It's something you wouldn't necessarily think about. You know, food is such an organic thing, but we've worked on projects where we 3D printed food. We 3D printed vitamins that are bespoke to every single individual based on their health and based on who they are. So these are the really big themes. Underneath that, there is tons and tons of different things. So all of that is happening, and we know that it's happening. But the question that we try and ask ourselves is, what do you want to do about it? What do we want to do about it? So our principle here is something called preferable futures. And the idea there is we want to go and decide for ourselves. Can you just click for me? Just 1 second. Click. Sorry about this, it was working earlier. So we need to decide for ourselves, what do we want to do? What's the preferable future? And the idea of the preferable future is really important. We are really privileged to work at a high enough level that the impact of the ideas that we come up with could affect a lot of people. To give you a really simple example, we worked in a project where we created a robot that replaced 250 jobs. And when you do something like that, you can ask yourself, do I really want to do this? But you also have to ask yourself, what were these people doing before the robot? And all they were doing, they were stamping things. You know, a piece of paper comes and they stamp. They were actually robots themselves. So we released 250 people to go out and do something that is a little bit more creative, a little bit more interesting. They actually became salespeople, but that's by the by. But the idea there is, what is the preferable future? What are the choices that you want to make? What do you want to see in the world? We believe that you can influence it. Without that singular belief, you'll go nowhere. You can't go and be a creative. There's no point in being creative if you don't believe that you can actually change things and you can actually create new optimal ways of doing things. So that's the basic concept. I'm going to skip to the exercises if that's okay. There's a couple of other things that we would talk about, but there is a talk tomorrow. I think it's in the same room, and we're going to talk about this stuff a little bit more if you're interested. So do come back. We will expand on that, hopefully, a lot more. But for now, we just want to kind of expose you to this notion of preferable future. And the exercise that Ina is going to kind of set up for you is all about that. We're going to break you into smaller groups and we'll get you to work together, but we're going to give you some tools to work around that. Just skip.
So the exercise that we want to run is called extreme conditions. Now, the principle or the aim of the exercise is to push you out of your thinking boundaries to the extreme end. So you know the chart that Saher showed before? You have the present and you have the probable future. On the edges of that cone, there could be a 0% condition or a 100% condition. You know, like, let's say in terms of mobility, the future could be that there are no cars left whatsoever. On the other side of extreme, it could be that everyone owns a car and everyone has their little automated pod that they drive around in the future. Now, what we want to do here today is talk about mainly about the future of education. Now, education is not something that's siloed as an industry. It actually gets affected by a lot of other industries. So we're going to talk about extreme conditions in healthcare, education itself, and work. So what we'll want to do is break into smaller teams, and each team is going to take one extreme condition. They're going to imagine, for example, what would the future of education look like if you had, for example, no memory. And the important bit here is not just to imagine what that world looks like. The important bit here is to decide what do you want that future to look like, to work like, to feel like. We want you to describe what kind of technologies do you imagine in this future? How would people think? How would they behave? How they would interact with each other? What kind of business models would exist in there? Would you still be driving cars? Would you still be using pens and all of those other tools? So we're going to kick off now, and it's going to be quite intense. What we're going to do is please everyone gather into smaller teams of 3 or 4. Kind of find friends around you. Find friends around you. Kind of gather into little clusters of 3 or 4.
It's easier if you stand up and move around.
Yes, I would suggest everyone stand up. Everyone stand up.
Leave your bags, you just need your hands.
I'm going to quickly pass on a few sheets of paper. Please make sure each team has at least 1 sheet of paper. Help each other as well. Please pass on these sheets of paper.
Okay, once you're in a team, get together, make almost a little circle or a little square.
There we go. Please help each other as well. Make sure that each team has a few sheets of paper.
Okay? Spread out, people. Don't be shy.
Yes, yes, we do.
Spread out.
And make sure everyone grabs at least a few pens. Again, share this, help each other, pass it around. Here we go. Sorry. Here we go.
Okay, so listen carefully to what I'm about to say because it's going to change your world a little bit. I would like you to stand up in your little teams. Stand up. How do you say stand up in Russian?
I don't know.
She doesn't even know. Okay, stand up. Good. All right. You have 1 free hand. Raise 1 free hand. Okay, you have a team now. You all have teams. In your teams, just give each other high fives and jump. All right, high five.
Very quickly,
and jump.
very quickly. Come on, come on.
Up. I don't see anybody jumping. Okay, a bit more enthusiasm. 1 more time. High five and jump like this. Up. Good. All right, great.
So that gets your blood pumping. It goes into your brain. It's good for you.
All right. So just to repeat the instructions, we're going to give you 5 minutes on each area. So in your team, what you need to do, pick one of those conditions. Imagine a world where one of those is true. Okay? It's absolute truth. It has happened. Pick one of those that you think is interesting. The more surprising, the more crazy, the more extreme, the better. All right? And so pick any of these, and then in your team, as Ina said, try and imagine what are the things that you want to see in that world. Things such as what would lifestyle look like? What would work look like? What would products you would buy look like? What would change? How would government change? How would education change? Think about the areas and how that would affect. So for example, when we're working on the future of cars and mobility, in a world where people don't own cars, everything changes. The city changes, the companies change. All of a sudden, the pavements change. The physical environment changes because people are not parking their cars anymore because they don't have to own them, right? So try and imagine those worlds. So in each team, spend 1 minute picking one of those. Somebody says, I think this is really interesting, we should go for it. Go for it. And then begin creating that world. We will need you to write down your names at the end, by the way. So I'll tell you about that a little bit more. But for now, pick the themes. Do you want me to read them out for you? You can sit down now. Sit down. Sit down.
And if possible, please write in English.
If you can
so
write
we can
in English,
understand the
that'd be great.
ideas afterwards. There will be a prize at the end for all of this.
All right, sit down, folks. Okay, so the conditions are, very quickly, the first one is no visibility of future job markets. Nobody knows what the next job is going to be. Nobody knows what the type of job would be. No testing. There is no evaluation. You can't measure people, you can't test people, you can't do exams, you can't do anything like that. No aspiration. People have given up. People don't want to try to be better. No collective learning. You don't learn like this. You don't learn in a group. You learn one-to-one. No allowance for mistakes. A world where mistakes are punished. 100% supported by psychiatric medicine. So if you can't sleep very well at night, we will give you medicine. 100% global curriculum. Everybody in the world learns one single version of the truth. There is no professions. You chose that? Good. Go. Go. All right.
So everybody pick one.
You just pick one of them.
Pick one and start writing.
And
No
start thinking
idea
about
is
that
wrong.
world. Yeah.
Just write as many as you can. You have 5 minutes.
Starting now.
I'm going to go and check if everyone picks. Вам понятно, девочки, что надо сделать? Да. I don't know Russian that much. Like, choose one of the conditions, essentially. Just go with it. Yeah. It's up to you. It's up to you. Like, for example, if you choose no memory, at school, what is it? Education. Education. Yeah. Извините. So you cannot make a mistake at school. So, for example, if you're not allowed to make mistakes, you would probably have interesting, rewarding systems for not making mistakes. What would those rewarding
No memory.
systems look like? Or
So what would the world look like?
Systems would look like?
How will
You
people
could either
remember
way.
things? What would
It's up to
replace
you
your
to
memory?
imagine what that would be.
What's going to come in its
Does
place?
that mean that everyone is hiding their mistakes all of a sudden? And how do they
Are you
hide
going
those
with this
things?
one?
Yeah. From your perspective, what's your imagination?
Which one?
Global
curriculum. Okay, all right. So everybody studies the same thing. Who's going to teach it? How will you cover
might
language?
Be interesting to imagine what
What
kind
will
of
they
services
teach?
would exist
Who
in this one.
decides?
Like
Answer these
Uber
questions.
equivalent or anything like that.
Which one did you pick?
Have you chosen a condition?
No mistakes, punishment. All right. Okay. So how do you know
Have you got a
if
piece of
people
paper
made
to write on?
mistakes? Who sets the rules?
No? Okay, let me steal some from the other teams.
All
You
right.
need to
Think
start
about
writing,
what will
okay?
come. Guys, can you hear me? All right, time's up. Time's up. Stop. 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 All right. Who thinks they got a very interesting world? Who thinks they came up with something really interesting and surprising?
Here we go.
Yes, sir. So what was the condition and what did you come up with? Mike, can we get a mic?
Could we get a mic?
Listen up.
So our condition is no age classification. Yeah, and the first thing we believe that if you help us with that the education will be as fast as you could learn. So the trend of unschooling education, so it doesn't matter, you don't need to pass, I don't know, 10 grades. You can learn in 1 year everything you need, you learn. So the speed of education is individual thing. The second thing, it was like a weird idea, but prison for kids. If there is no classifications, then if you are shouting in a plane if you are 1 year old, you got administrative punishment for that. And if you are shouting if you're 60, the same problem. The oldness, so there is no, I don't know, social pension. I mean, you can start working at 10, you can finish working at 20, and get your pension until you are 100 years old.
Actually, we worked on the last one. We have a version of that in the real world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Give them a round of applause. Yeah, I totally get the prison for kids thing. Should do that tomorrow, today. All right, so the next one is work, healthcare. So your costs are based on your behavior. So if you take drugs, you drink too much, you have a crazy lifestyle, and then you expect the government to pay for your healthcare, you can forget it. Your behavior dictates the costs. That's the first one. The second one is nobody dies anymore. We live forever. What would the world look like? There is no more life cycle. It's a continuous thing. No doctors, no hospitals. We got rid of them. All right? There is no doctors, there is no hospitals. No elderly people. People don't get old anymore.
Or you're not allowed to get to an old age.
Thank you. No cures or treatment. So you can't get a pill anymore. Antibiotics don't work anymore. No language. No pain. No fear. 100% predicted time of death. I'm going to die in about 5 hours, 30 minutes. No physical examination. Nobody checks you up. No governments. Nobody is responsible for healthcare in any shape or form. 100% personalized dynamic pricing. The pricing of all healthcare changes minute by minute. Depends on who's in the market that day. 100% age limit. What's that one? 100%.
You're kind of not allowing to die.
You're not allowed to die. Kind of same thing. All right. So in your teams, same exercise. What you need to do is pick one. I'm going to give you a minute. Then I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Pick the most crazy one you can think of. Which one are you going to pick? Yeah, which one do you like it?
Go with your intuition.
Which one do you want? Guys thinking?
We're thinking there are a lot of variants. Okay. No government in case of healthcare. So we think that healthcare will be based only on trust organization for persons who provide you such service. Because I don't believe that everybody can care on themselves in sense of healthcare.
Okay. So who would provide it? But also think about
Private people, private organizations.
yeah. So would I get my healthcare from Google or Yandex? Would I get my healthcare from Apple? And if that's the world, then what does that mean for my life? What do I have to do with that healthcare?
What if we will have a better evolution? So, for example, there will be no governments in the future, and a person will be like everything
So, what did you do? Really? Okay.
That phase. So no pain on the trip, but maybe there would be retreat centers where you get pain, you get motivation to do something.
Becomes like the Purge, the movie.
And digital tracking of if you don't have pain, but you need to have clocks that your pain.
So it's almost like children. Children don't have any concept of barriers, especially when they're really young. So they don't know that this is fire. If I touch it, it will hurt. They don't know this is electricity. Switch will kill me. So everybody becomes a child. So what will your house look like?
Like in car, you have your back is aching.
Cut it.
How long?
Yeah, we're still good. Okay, can you hear me? Stop. Stop. I'm sorry, the fun has to stop. Who thinks they got a really interesting idea? I see a raised hand over there. Okay, let's listen up. Listen up, folks. Please go ahead.
We picked no death. We picked no death topic, and as I have no death. The main problem the mankind will face will be obviously over перенаселение по-русски. Overpopulation. Yeah? As nobody will die, so too many people will be living on the earth. So, what should we do in this case? What should we do to, чтобы этого избежать, да? We can take other resources. For example, we can go to the outer space and try to live on Mars and so on. The next, ocean, Earth ocean. This is the first turn, and then outer space. Okay. Modification of the human. I'm not sure.
Body.
Genes.
Okay.
DNA. Yeah. This is one of the ways out. And also we are afraid that the number of insane, crazy people will increase. So and the whole medicine will remain just for modification of our bodies, because it will be too boring to live in the one of the same body.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. All right. Can we squeeze one more? All right. Because we started a little bit, you have a good one. Well, write it down because there is a prize at the end. All right. We are going to do one more. work. So you're going to have to be, you know how it works now, right? So we're going to move really quick. So there is no experts anymore. No one is an expert. No 9-to-5 structure, no written communication, no IP, no copyright, no evaluation of performance, no identity, no knowledge of purpose, no CVs, no potential for promotion, 100% child homeschooling, no employees, no desire to grow financially, no automation, no pensions. Okay, we have 5 minutes, make it quick. Pick one. Or not, you're testing whether you can learn. You're testing whether do different types of skills. For example, collaboration, creative thinking. So in the army, in certain areas of the military, we don't test whether you can fight, we test whether you can think. Right? Because everybody can learn how to think out about thinking. So I think about it. You don't have a history. You don't have a history behind it. How will you test somebody for the? What would you look for? Right. So what did you pick?
We're thinking about child homeschooling. Child homeschooling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would that work look like? Who would do the teaching at home?
Artificial intelligence.
Illegal schools.
Interesting. Real illegal schools where children can communicate with each other and to learn how to communicate.
So you would go to the illegal school to know how to communicate with other children. Yeah. Because the one thing that you miss with homeschooling is other children.
And the price of experts of communications will be very high. And they will be like communicators between companies, corporations.
Good. We have a scenario like that. Good. Yeah, good. Give it one more. Okay, guys, stop. Time's up. Time's up. Time's up. The only thing we don't have is time. We have everything else. Okay, so just to close this session, it's just meant to be a taster, a feel for how you look at scenario planning, how we look at kind of developing these strategies for the future. And this is the sort of stuff that we do, like I said, with governments, big brands, etc. Now, if you want to, it's totally up to you, write down your emails and names on your ideas, give them to us, and we will pick one team, and we're going to give them a trip to London to work on our next project or our next hack. So there is a prize. So if you want to take 2 minutes, refine your ideas a little bit if you can, but write names and emails so that we can get you, we can pick one and we'll take you to London with us. All right? It might be Germany, but you know, we never know. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. Please make sure you give us your papers to Ina at the end.
Whoever wants to talk to us after the session, feel free to come to us. We're happy to talk to you in person. We can think about how we can get involved with our hacks. We can think about how you can get involved with our business. Thank you all.